Hi, everyone. It's Alyssa, and I just wanted to do sort of like the best movies of 2025 for me. So, this is definitely like my favorites list. But when I was going through the year, I honestly had a very hard time whittling it down to a top 10. So, I was like, what am I doing? I'm just going to put my favorite movies. And I basically listed it in two separate categories. So I have 18 movies total. And then it'll sort of be like, and when I say bottom, I definitely don't mean like these are bad. These are amazing movies, but maybe the movies that are a little bit more towards the bottom of the list. So everything here is around like a 4.25, 4.5 out of 5 stars for me. So somewhere around there. And then we'll kind of go into the next round. The reason I did that is because there are so many movies from this past year that I absolutely loved and that I feel like are just not being talked about. Now, some of the movies on this list definitely are talked about, and some of them are definitely in that best picture race. But at the same time, there are a lot of movies in that best picture category that I really wouldn't put in the top 10, and I wouldn't even put in the top 20 for me. Not saying I didn't like them, but just they weren't at the very top for me in this particular year. So the only I've seen this year 142 movies from 2025. The only movies that I'm missing that I feel like, oh, they definitely could potentially make my list are Surat, which I don't even think I ever had available to me. So I'll definitely see it in the future. The Secret Agent, which is just too high of a price point for a rental for me right now. It's $15. And for whatever reason, I just haven't seen Die My Love, but I love Lynn Ramsey, and I feel like that could be a movie that enters into my top 20. So those are the only ones I'm missing. So I'm going to jump right in with sort of like from the bottom-ish up, but I'm not going in any particular order here. These are just like top 18 films, and first here are the bottom 9 of those movies. So I'm going to start with The Mastermind by Kelly Reichardt, which is a movie that I just have not heard anyone talking about. And it stars Josh O'Connor in a few really great movies from this past year. He broke out. I know people have loved him for a really long time, but for whatever reason, this year and the movies I saw him in, I just really appreciated him, and I get it now. Like, I totally get why people like him so much. So The Mastermind is a heist movie, but it's a heist movie that only Kelly Reichardt can make because it's very realistic. It's very down to earth. It's not exactly exciting even during the heist part of the movie, which happens oddly early on in the story. But it is very slow and introspective and realistic, and you never know what to make with that lead character and how you should be feeling about him. And I like movies where you do get that kind of complicated lead, where there's a lot of nuance in who he is and why he does what he does. So Mastermind is playing on Mubi right now, which is a streaming service that I really love, and find movies there that I really would not find anywhere else. And there's a few movies from this list that are currently streaming on Mubi. So if it's streaming, I'm going to let you know where you can get it. Next up on the list is a movie you could get right now on Netflix called Left-Handed Girl, and that's directed by Shi Ching Su. She often works as a producer with Sean Baker. The movie's edited by Sean Baker, but she wrote it. And what I loved is that feeling of getting maybe more of a female voice, because you're following essentially like two sisters and a mother in the story in China. I forget the city right now because I'd seen the movie a few months ago, but I remember it just feeling incredibly visceral. And the family moves so that they can start a noodle shop, and it's very much about the day-to-day life, but as is true in any movie that has a writing credit with Sean Baker. So I believe the two of them wrote it together. It has a gut punch at the end, and a gut punch that like you don't necessarily see coming, and still feels really subtle and real and nuanced. And I found myself just really engaged with all of these women's, what their life was like, their daily life. And it's a movie that kind of just dropped on Netflix, and it never really went in like my stream of movies that I would like, but I only know about it because I follow Sean Baker on Instagram and he was promoting it a lot. So if you didn't see it, it is definitely a movie I would recommend. It was sort of in that race for international film. It was always almost in like that second tier where it was, the top was always with like No Other Choice and Surratt, Sentimental Value, Secret Agent, all of those kind of movies. This was sort of like in that second tier, but I really loved it and connected with it. Okay, the next movie I have is also a movie on Mubi called Lurker, and it's from first-time director Alex Russell, and it's about a kid who's sort of obsessed with this pop star and is able to find a way to get into his inner circle. And that alone as a premise sounds interesting enough for me. But when I was watching it, I kind of couldn't believe how there were just such small shifts in the characters and how they felt about each other and like who needed each other when. And it was not a movie that I found predictable in any way. Like you really could not see where the story was going. And it was such a give and take in the two leads. One of the leads is Archie Madwecki, I think. And then I can't remember the other guy, but I've seen him in movies before. But they were just so the chemistry between the two of them and the motivation was so interesting. And so Lurker, another movie that I haven't heard as many people talking about. It was nominated for a few Independent Spirit Awards, but I just was really impressed by the tone and the psychological nature of it, and like even the music, and it was good. Like everything was good. The next on the list is also a movie that you could see right now on Netflix. It's Richard Linklater's Blue Moon. I should probably also say that I have not seen Nouveau Vague, and I could see that also being on my top list of the year. And that's really because I wanted to watch that with Breathless in one shot. So I just haven't had that like 4 hours straight where I feel like it could do something like that. But I'm digressing. Blue Moon, which is also directed by Richard Linklater and stars Ethan Hawke, who is an actor who I have just loved since the 90s. Like he is someone that I've grown up with. He's someone who makes interesting choices and really who has only become better and better at his craft since he's gotten older. And so this movie is very much like a play. It's about Lorenz Hart, who used to work with Richard Rodgers, and we're right at the precipice of sort of Rodgers and Hammerstein. And the movie takes place on the opening night of Oklahoma, and essentially Lorenz Hart is just in the bar, talking to the bartender, talking to various people, and sort of giving his story and saying everything that's happened kind of wrong in his life. And Ethan Hawke is playing someone who I really feel like this is a character that he's never played before. Sometimes you can always see like that little spark of Ethan Hawke in his performances. And I'm not saying that's not there. He's always got a spark to me, but this one really doesn't feel like Ethan Hawke. And it feels like he really got lost in the character of who this person is. And I think the screenplay is tight and interesting and goes a lot more into personal aspects of his life than I really expected it to. And it's Ethan Hawke's movie. He steals the show. Other people are good in it. Margaret Qualley's good in it. Andrew Scott's good in it, but it really is his show. I also love that the screenwriter in this is a retired English teacher. So amazing that he got nominated for an Academy Award. All right, next up, also on Netflix, Wake Up Dead Man by Rian Johnson. I love the Knives Out movies. And while I wouldn't say that this is my favorite one in the Knives Out, I still think the original is my favorite. This is definitely my second favorite one. And once again, Josh O'Connor, I thought really stole the show. Like the characterization of that priest down to the neck tattoo and how comfortable he looked kind of portraying a character like that was awesome. I thought the twists were great. Some of the symbolism a little obvious, but I'll take it. I like, as long as you're giving me some symbolism, I'm going to take it. I love the tone of it, the look of it, the cinematography, sort of the silliness in this, but like not as silly as Glass Onion. So like I did appreciate that they're always going to have a tone shift in their movies, and for me personally, this is the kind of tone in the movie that I'm the most drawn to. All right, next up is Hamnet by Chloe Zhao. This is a movie that I really, really liked most of the way through, minus the last. Now, I loved that the ending worked for me, but there's one thing in the ending that didn't, which is why this movie couldn't break into my like top list. I do not like a song choice, and that's all I will say. At the end of the movie, I found it very odd and cheesy and took me out of the story 110%. But overall, this is probably my favorite movie that Chloe Zhao has done. I don't always connect with her work, but that sort of like flowiness and sort of like lyrical painting of the way that her movies can look, it worked for me the most here. I think Jessie Buckley is fantastic in the movie. I might prefer Rose Byrne to Jessie Buckley, but I still think Jessie Buckley is just incredible in this film. I love Paul Mescal's character, but also the little boy. I forgot what his name is. I know that he's a Jupe and he's the brother of, I think it's Jacoby Jupe. He just kind of blew me away in the movie, and it's about Shakespeare, but it never really feels like, oh, I'm watching a movie about Shakespeare. It feels more like I'm watching a movie about a couple and what they have gone through in their life. And I did appreciate that the story takes that kind of a different aspect. So it doesn't feel like the same thing that I've seen a million times. That is currently not streaming, but it will be on Peacock eventually. All right, next up, a movie on AMC Plus. I never would have seen it if I didn't have AMC Plus, but it's The Ugly Stepsister, directed by Emily Blitchfield. And this is a Norwegian film that's like a take on Cinderella, but from the Ugly Stepsister's point of view. And for me, this is a much stronger movie than what the substance was, in terms of both are kind of saying similar things and have similar themes, but for whatever reason, I connected to The Ugly Stepsister so much more. It didn't feel like it was ever tiptoeing around anything. It went there directly. The imagery is very direct. I liked that the movie wasn't subtle at all, but it was really beautiful. And it was so much about like how much women will torture themselves to look a certain way, and everything down from like the music and the performances, the way it was shot. I was just blown away from this movie, and it did get an Oscar nomination for makeup and hair, so I was super happy to see that it got something. After that, I would say Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice was such a fantastic movie, where I went in knowing absolutely nothing. Like I literally didn't know anything. I didn't watch the trailer. I just love Park Chan-wook movies, and this was not disappointing at all. It was very funny. It's essentially about a man who loses his job after working that job for, I would say, about 25 years. So at the point where you should feel really settled, and now all of a sudden you're not settled. And so much of that comes from the fact that the capitalism is coming in, and there is a decrease on the importance of the workers. And it kind of integrates a lot of different current ideas right now. And I just thought it was funny. It was exciting. It was surprising. I did not see where everything was going in that movie. And I just had so much fun in the theater watching it. All right, next up is Derek Cianfrance Roofman, which you can see on Paramount Plus right now. Derek Cianfrance was one of my favorite directors between Blue Valentine and The Police Beyond the Pines. I love his style and how humanitarian he is, and how within every character who's doing something that maybe is not the right thing to do, you still see so much humanity in that person. And he just taps into people in a way that I don't think most directors actually do. And I think the performance that Sam France gets out of Channing Tatum is his best performance I've ever seen him give. And it really is a true story. Like when you get to the end, you realize, wow, this is such a true story. They weren't taking liberties, but it's really about a guy who was robbing McDonald's through the roof, who gets caught and then escapes prison and then ends up living in a Toys R Us for a while. The movie is, of course, funny because that's what it looked like in the trailer. But what the trailer doesn't show is how emotional I thought the movie was and how much it felt like that return to form for Derek France, especially since he did that one movie. I definitely forget the name of it, with Michael Fassbender, that I did not like at all. Like The Light Between Oceans, was it something like that? I don't know. But like this was the Derek France that I know. All right, so here are like my top movies from this past year. So if anything, I would say like, yeah, these are maybe the top 9. But once again, I always like change my mind. I just love all of these films so much, but I'm going to start with Mary Bronstein's If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, which is right now on HBO Max. This movie, there is, she is married to Ronald Bronstein, and there is so much I felt as I was watching this, like, oh my God, this is like an internal version of what a Safdie's movie feels like. So I feel like with the Safdie's movie, whether it's like Marty Supreme or Good Time or Uncut Gems, like it's so much about external things happening, which causes so much stress in the story. And this was so many internal things that's causing stress for the main character in the story. And it's really about a mother trying to just stay above water with her life, with a husband who's out on business, but still kind of like bossing her around about certain things, and her having to take care of her daughter who has some kind of illness that they can't figure out, and the constant stress that she feels as a mother, being at work, having to help other people with their problems because she's a psychologist. It was just like one thing after another where you felt like it was one brick on your chest, and you felt like you couldn't breathe watching the movie. And I loved that. Like, I wouldn't say for most people, this may not be an enjoyable movie, but it was enjoyable for me because it made me feel so much. And Rose Byrne's performance just like hooked me from minute one. I love her. I love to see her in something that is dramatic. And even though this does have some comedic elements, it was her the entire movie, and she just held it together. Plus, they filmed it on Long Island, which I loved seeing that also. So that would be probably around my number 9. Next up, also on HBO Max, Sorry Baby by Ava Victor. Oh my God, I was going to say Ava Green. Ava Victor. This movie definitely took me by surprise. I had heard some positive reviews, but I didn't know how much I was going to be affected by her and this character. And she has a really great sense of voice because she wrote the movie, she directed the movie, she stars in it. Her brand of comedy is just spot on for me. I found this a story that is about a difficult subject matter to be really engaging, and while difficult, she made it feel as realistic as possible. And the story wasn't necessarily about what had happened to her. It was very much about her friends and like people around her and how you move past certain events, and not move past them, but like absorb them into your being, but then allow yourself to move forward. And, I will say on a side note, being a person who has in her lifetime with my husband rescued 18 cats, that one scene where she just picks up her little kitty and looks at him in 2 seconds and says, yeah, I think I love you. That was the most relatable scene of the entire year for me. So such a very real, genuine movie with a sharp script, a script that I actually really hoped would have got nominated for Best Original Screenplay. She did win the Screenplay Awards for the Independent Spirit Awards, but I really wanted her to get that one Oscar nomination because I think she really deserved it. And if you haven't seen it, you should definitely watch that on HBO. Also, another movie you could watch on HBO Max right now, Weapons. That was one of the movies I saw, I guess, sort of earlier in the year that definitely stayed on that top list for me the whole year through. When I say she, I mean Amy Madigan. When I saw it the first time, I thought to myself, wow, she really was great. And I wish she would get nominated for Best Supporting Actress. That'll never happen because it's a horror movie and nobody really looks at horror movies realistically, even when they have such a deeper meaning to them, which I thought this movie really did. I even made a video about it. But it's great to see that Amy Madigan really stood through the whole season. And while she may or may not win the Academy Award, it definitely feels like she's the top two contenders with Tiana Taylor. And I'm just so happy to see that the movie was nominated for something. Though I also really strongly believe that this film should have been nominated for Best Picture. And I feel like if a movie like The Substance could get in for Best Picture, and that's horror. I didn't understand why Weapons couldn't, because I thought it was at the same level in terms of like a deeper meaning, and I think it did it a little bit better than The Substance. But all right, next after that is, I believe you can see this on Hulu or Disney Plus if you have it connected, Twinless, which is directed by James Sweeney, a movie I heard almost nothing about. If you hear that in the back, that's my cat. Okay, back to Twinless. But I really had not heard about this movie. A couple critics where it was like, oh, this is a cute movie. And then once again, I did not see the trailer. I had no idea what this movie was about, other than it's two men who are both twins who lost their twin, and it's about their grief and getting through it. But the story pretty quickly turns into something that is so much more than that, and it's a story about loneliness and isolation, and how like kind of being in a city and being around loads of people, you still never feel like you actually connect to anyone. But it does it in a way that was totally unexpected to me. And one of the things that worked, I mean, I thought the writing in this was genuinely funny by James Sweeney. There were so many times in this movie where I was like, I can't believe how much I'm actually laughing during this movie. But it was also that performance by Dylan O'Brien, who just shocked me with how much range he had playing the two characters. So he's playing both of the brothers, and you do see the brother who passed away a decent amount. So they were just so opposite in every way, and he felt so equally comfortable playing both of those characters. And it really was, I saw he got nominated for an Independent Spirit Awards for Best Performance, and it's totally deserved. And I feel like not enough people were talking about that performance and talking about that film. And I know when it came out at Sundance, it was getting so many accolades. But I also had heard that the movie got leaked because it was streaming through Sundance, so that it sort of lost a lot of the momentum that it had. So if you haven't seen Twinless, it is definitely funny and definitely worth your time. Next on the list, I have Begonia, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos and starring Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons. And this is a movie that I just wanted to be so good. And I put so much on it. And then it was like people liked it, but a little bit tepid. And then I went to go see it and I was like, no, I loved this. And I also felt that this was probably the most watchable Yorgos Lanthimos movie ever made. Like, this was the kind of movie where I could even borderline consider recommending this to my parents, and they might be like, Alyssa, what are you thinking recommending this to us? But they wouldn't be outright angry at me for it. Whereas I feel like all of his other movies, they would be pissed off at me. So this premise, I think most people know what it is, but Emma Stone's a CEO, and Jesse Plemons is a conspiracy theorist who believes that she is an alien, and so he kidnaps her, and it's really a back and forth between these two characters. Both performances are absolutely stellar. Sad that Jesse Plemons couldn't get the nomination, but I will say there were so many strong performances in that acting category that I was also like, well, who do you lose also in this list? So, such a funny movie, such a strong ending and strong statement. And it goes into a direction, again, that yes, I was expecting the ending that we got, and I was expecting this with her character, but yet I did find the movie takes it one step further in the end and surprised me in one other way in the end, where I was like, no, this is brilliant. And there's other movies that have tried to make statements like this before that I believe are less successful. I will not mention those movies because I think by mentioning it, I would spoil something in this movie. But I do feel like in what this movie is trying to say, it is very successful. All right, next up, I actually just saw this movie last night because I was like, I had to see it for this list, and I'm so glad I did. It's Jafar Panahi's It Was Just an Accident. This was brilliant. I cannot stop thinking about it. I cannot stop talking about it. I obviously it does have that recency bias to me, but there is something in my heart that feels this movie really is going to stick with me for such a long time. It is a movie where I could see some people being like, it's a homework movie. I might like it, but it's homework. It's not homework. It was so easy to watch and it was so engaging, and it's a drama, but it's thrilling. And then the screenplay is written in a way where you really are confused for like the first 25 minutes and you're not sure what you should be thinking or whose side you're supposed to be on or where the empathy is supposed to lie. And I'm so glad I did not read a thing about this movie. I did not watch a trailer. I did not anything, because I did see, if you read even the blurb on IMDb, it gives away way too much. And I say that because the story is narratively structured in a certain way where you don't get information until about 25 minutes into the movie. And I felt like the film was so much better for it. I felt that the actors were great in the film. I saw some people saying that they didn't necessarily like the performances. I don't even know what people want anymore. I thought the more lead woman, who was the photographer, just was stunning and took command of every single scene that she was in. The movie was oddly funny given what the subject matter is, and it holds such a weight of realism in it. It is so heavy, but it never loses sight of the humanness and the way that humans would react in the situation that these individuals are put in. And the end sequence is phenomenal. There are so many like masterful long takes in the film. So many things that you watch it and you're kind of like, I can't believe that Panahi was able to actually film this in Iran and make this happen and not have this production shut down. Like that in and of itself, that this film got made, is a miracle. And then watching it, it's so engaging. And it's a movie that I really would recommend to anybody. I think almost any age, any background would find this to be a really engaging and accessible movie. So if you thought this is kind of homework and you weren't sure if you wanted to see it, you should absolutely watch it. All right, the next up, there are three more movies. I have Joachim Trier's Sentimental Value, and I'm so glad that I loved this movie as much as I did. It is so emotional, so much of a realistic family drama with Renata Reinsve and Stellan Skarsgård. I really think Stellan Skarsgård is going to win the Academy Award for this. He deserves it. He's excellent in this movie, and Renata is just on another level. Like if Jessie Buckley weren't in contention, I do think that she would be one of the top actresses of the year that we were talking about. Her performance is so subtle, and I'm always going to go for a subtle performance because I think that takes a little more bravery than a big bold performance does. And I felt everything she was feeling, and there were moments where I was like, okay, where is it going? And then there's a scene at the end with the two sisters, and it got me in such a strong way. It was one of the only times that I actually cried in the movie theater. And no, I did not actually cry at Hamnet. So sentimental value, that made me cry. Hamnet did not make me cry. I just think it is such a strong film about family that connects no matter where you come from, because those kind of family relationships, it doesn't matter your background or anything like that. So definitely recommend that. All right, our last two movies, I could go back and forth forever. So I have Sinners with directed by Ryan Coogler. This is a movie that it came out now almost a year ago, and it still sticks with me to this day. I'm still looking things up on YouTube. I'm still keep watching the two major dance sequences in the movie. It feels, and I mean this as such a compliment, I feel like I'm in Disney World when I go there, in the sense of like I'm in another universe. And the movie was surprising when I saw it the first time, and so big and over the top, and seeing it in IMAX, it really felt like an IMAX movie, unlike some films that I've seen in IMAX where it's like I never quite feel the largeness of the movie, the grand scale of the movie. It makes sense that this movie got nominated for 16 Academy Awards, because I just thought it excelled in so many different areas. And you can never be fully immersed in the movie if that production design wasn't there, if the costume design wasn't there. It was just an incredible story about really two brothers and family that then does go into a vampire story. But that vampire story isn't just, oh, it's a vampire story. The vampires themselves have such a deeper meaning in what vampires represent in the story, and the background of the Remick character being Irish. And it was so smart and accessible and entertaining and larger than life. This is a movie I'm going to go back to and watch so many times in my life. I've already seen it 3 times, and I'm itching to watch it again. So that means I do have sort of in that top spot, but it could always move around, especially these first like 4 spots I feel like are almost interchangeable to me. So I have Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another. It really was that good, and I really did love it that much. And to see a story that is not like your typical, oh, here's the 3-act narrative where this happens, this happens, this happens, but to have it feel like this roaming road and almost feel like that end sequence with the cars during the entire movie, and you don't know where things are going. I just thought it was brilliant, and obviously one of Paul Thomas Anderson's best films. Who could say if it's his best film, because he has so many incredible films, but this is without a doubt up there. It is my favorite performance from Leonardo DiCaprio. Really just seeing him as a parent and being a revolutionary, and what happens when you lead this lifestyle in your younger life and what can happen to you later in life. But to have it all be so murky with his character, and again, there aren't just like good guys, bad guys, Teyana Taylor is not just like, oh, like hero, villain. Everything is very nuanced, but also so stylized, and so many memorable characters, and the whole like secret society and Sean Penn's character. But to have that like offset Sean Penn character, to have someone like Benicio del Toro in the movie, who even when I saw it the first time just stood out so much. Every performance stands out in this. It is a feat from a screenwriting point of view. The cinematography is stellar. Once again, like I can't get that image of the cars on the road out of my head. And you would think, how can you film a car chase in a different way, well, Paul Thomas Anderson did it. So that's my list of my favorite movies of the year. I would love to hear what your favorite movies of the year were. If you didn't see your favorites here, that does not mean I didn't like them. Once again, I saw 142 movies. So certain things just really connected with me, maybe a little bit more than others. But still, things that came after the Masterminder movies, I still loved so much. So I would love to hear what your favorite movies are. Are there any movies that I didn't mention that maybe I wouldn't have seen that you would recommend? Have you seen Secret Agent? Have you seen Die My Love? Were those great movies, or am I not missing anything? I will see them eventually either way, but would love to hear what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching if you are still here at the end. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.